Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to section 2 of day 2 of Finding North Network in Perspectives 2025 eSemporium. I'm very excited to have you all here, and hopefully you've been able to join us this morning. But if you haven't, just to give you a bit of an idea about what you've missed out on, but you can see through the links that will be available. We've spoken extensively about human rights. We've been lucky enough to hear from Joanne Khan again, who's an Indigenous lived experience voice. And we've had a fantastic keynote speaker called Trish Tran, who has significantly advocated and made changes throughout Australia, and continues to make changes as well with the way in which we approach human rights. And it seemed like you could ask her a question about human rights, it wouldn't have mattered what it would have been, and she could quote you Article XYZ 0.256.1, and that would have been able to give you the exact human rights like a law that you needed for your particular situation. It really was very insightful to hear. And I know I got a lot out of it, and I really hope that the audience did as well. Personally, human rights for me, I mean, they should be at the top of everybody's agenda, but understanding the Human Rights Charter is something that's very important to me, and something that I've done a lot of research around in the work that I do. And whilst there are, what feels like a million different points and sub-points and subtexts and things like that you can go through, then once you do get to the points that you need to get to, things do clarify for you. If you are interested in seeing the Human Rights Charter that's available for Australia, we can include the links within the links to do with in our chat. And I do suggest having a read through, although it is quite a long read, but it is something that's worth understanding for your own benefit and for your own workplace as well, especially when it comes to things like working in healthcare, and not only on how you treat patients and people who come in for care, but also how you treat your colleagues and those around you. It's incredibly important, and it's something I suggest that you do. We have some more amazing speakers coming up now, and so I would like to introduce you to Michael Elwan. Michael, who identifies as he, him, is a counsellor, consultant, and PhD researcher whose work is grounded in lived experience. After becoming a carer at 14 and later losing his mother to suicide, Michael has dedicated his life to reshaping the mental health systems with compassion, equity, and accountability. He's the founder of Lived Experience Solutions, LEXs, an online practice offering counselling and coaching, peer supervision, suicide prevention training, and consultancy for individuals and organisations. Michael's approach draws on both professional expertise and personal insight to advocate for more inclusive and culturally responsive mental health care. Michael serves on several national and state level advisory groups and boards, including Suicide Prevention Australia's National Lived Experience Panel and WA State Committee, the Mental Health Commission of WA's Lived Experience and Advisory Group, the Board of ASeTTS, the Association of Service to Torture and Trauma Survivors. His doctoral research focuses on how we can better support lived experience leadership within the Australian Mental Health Organisation. Michael, I'm surprised you've been able to take the time to come and speak to us, because you seem like an incredibly busy man. I'm exhausted just from reading that bio altogether, but what an incredible amount of work that you do. But I'm looking forward to hearing from you, so please take it away.
Thank you very much, Jess. And I really appreciate the wonderful introduction. And I'm really glad to be here with you all. So I just want to put titles aside. And I want to say that I come to you today as an Egyptian Australian man whose life has been shaped by love, loss, and the longing to transform the systems that failed the people I loved. Today, I'm honored to speak with you at the Perspectives 2025 eSymposium, hosted by the incredible team at Finding North Network. And what I hope to share isn't just a presentation, it's a call to transform silence into systems change, so no one has to carry their pain alone or unseen. Next slide, please. So before we go any further, I want to pause and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we are meeting on today. And in my case, I acknowledge the Whadjuk Noongar people here in Western Australia. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and to all Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders peoples joining this space today. I also want to acknowledge the deep wisdom, strength, and lived experience of First Nations people in mental health, in healing, and in community-led care long before the terms we use today even existed. Next slide, please. There is a saying often attributed to Isaac Newton, which is, if I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants. Today, I want to honor the giants in our own sector, the people who lived with lived and living experiences of mental health challenges, who spoke long before it was safe, who walked into rooms that didn't understand them, and who fought to make space for voices like mine. Many of them are not famous. Some of them are no longer with us. Some never had the privilege to being heard, but their strength, their courage, and their advocacy laid the groundwork for everything we are doing today. Here I remember my mom. And also I would like to thank peer workers, carers, survivors, cultural elders, and lived experience champions, especially those from marginalized and culturally diverse communities. I see you, I thank you, and I carry your legacy forward. Next slide, please. We are living through a powerful shift, one where lived experience is finally being recognized as essential to mental health transformation. And across Australia, we are seeing peers, advocates, and carers and survivors leading change. Their insights are shaping policy, service design, and public understanding in ways we couldn't have imagined even a decade ago. But as this moment grows, a new question emerges. How do we make sure that diversity, especially culturally and linguistic diversity, is part of this growth? Because mental health is experienced through culture, language, spirituality, and community. And if we really want a system that is truly inclusive, we need a lived experience movement that reflects the full richness of the communities we serve. That's an opportunity I want to explore with you today. Next slide, please. To those who don't know me, my journey into this work wasn't part of a career plan. It was survival. At 14, I became a carer overnight after my father, who was an Air Force general and a decorated war veteran, lost his sight through a sudden stroke. I became his eyes, his voice, and his advocate. 2 years later, when I was 16, he passed, and I stepped into caring for my mother, a woman I adored, who lived with complex mental health challenges in a society where shame kept everything behind closed doors. We had no roadmap, no safe services, no words in our language that made space for what we are experiencing. We lived through it silently. Eventually, it became too much, and she died by suicide. And I want to be clear, my story is not rare. It echoes through many culturally and linguistically diverse families across the country. Culturally and linguistically diverse Australians make up over 27.6% of the population. Yet, we are still largely invisible in national suicide and mental health data. In 2023, a national review found that Australia collects no consistent data on suicide by ethnicity, migration pathway, or language spoken at home. That means we are trying to plan without precision. We are designing services with guesswork, not justice. And when we add gender to the picture, it becomes even starker. Only 1 in 5 Australian men seek professional mental health support. For culturally and linguistically diverse men, the number is even lower. Many suffer in silence until it's too late, and I work with them every day in my private practice. That silence is not a sign of apathy, it's a survival strategy learned through years of being unseen, misjudged, or misunderstood by systems that were not built for us. So when I speak to you today, it's not only as a professional, it's as a son, a carer, and a man who has lived the cost of that silence. Next slide, please. So while lived experience leadership is growing in Australia, many people from culturally and linguistically diverse communities are still left behind. And it's not because we don't care or don't want to be involved. It's because there are long-standing structural barriers that make it harder to show up, to be heard, and thrive in these spaces. First, stigma remains a powerful silencer. In many cultures, mental illness is seen as a source of shame, a personal failure, or something that must be kept hidden. So people delay getting help, sometimes until crisis point. Second, there is a mistrust. Many of us, or our parents or grandparents, carry memories of being ignored, misunderstood, or even harmed by systems that were not designed with us in mind. Whether it's racism, language barriers, or trauma from migration experiences, these legacies shape how safe or unsafe services feel. And third, there is a leadership gap. Too often, decisions about culturally and linguistically diverse communities are made without us. There are few visibly, culturally, and linguistically diverse leaders in consumer spaces, peer work, or policymaking. As a result, the same communities who face the most barriers are often the least represented at the table. Next slide, please. And one of the biggest myths we have inherited in mental health is the idea that it's culture neutral, that everyone experiences mental illness, recovery, or services in the same way. But we know that culture shapes everything. It shapes how we understand distress, whether we see it as a medical problem, a spiritual struggle, or a family matter. It shapes how we describe our pain. So where Western models name depression, in some cultures, people may say they feel blocked or out of harmony. These are not language barriers, they are worldview barriers. So it also shapes where we go for healing as well. In many cultures, the first point of contact isn't a GP or a psychologist. It might be family, a faith leader, or a trusted elder. And it deeply shapes who we trust and who we don't. So when mental health systems are built around one way of seeing the world, often a Western biomedical model, they risk overlooking those other worldviews. And for people from cultural and linguistically diverse backgrounds, that can make services feel distant, unsafe, or irrelevant. So as someone who lived within the system, and I experienced that how it can be very difficult to navigate the system, I often say this: Western biomedical systems speak the language of diagnosis, but many of us speak the language of faith, family, and spiritual alignment. And we must learn to translate in both directions. Next slide, please. Right. So earlier we explored the silence, the stigma, and the invisibility and the gaps in the leadership. But what happens when culturally and linguistically diverse communities experience is truly embedded and not only included or embedded, but trusted? We start to see transformation. So when our stories are shared safely, They, they break through shame, not just in communities, but in families. People say, if someone like you can speak about this, maybe I can too. This is how stigma weakens. So when we lead as peers, not as case studies, but as colleagues, we build trust with people who have felt unheard for generations. And when we are invited to shape systems, we don't just bring culture context. We bring imagination, solutions, and resilience forged in adversity. So as someone who has walked this journey, I can tell you this. When my voice was finally heard, I stopped feeling like a problem to fix. I started feeling like a partner in change. And that's the power of representation. And this is the promise of transformation. Next slide, please. So far, we explored the barriers, stigma, trust, and lack of representation. But I want to show you what happens when those barriers begin to shift, when culturally and linguistically diverse communities are trusted not just to engage, but to lead. The next few slides highlight 4 standout examples, from national initiatives to grassroots groups, that shows us what real inclusion looks like in action. Each of these is more than a project. It's a proof point. It says, yes, this can work. Yes, it can scale. And yes, the future of mental health transformation must be multicultural, multilingual, and led from lived experience. Next slide, please. The My Mind and My Voice is a powerful example of what happens when culturally and linguistically diverse lived experience leads. This was a national peer-led initiative co-designed by multicultural community members in collaborations with organizations like the Federation of Ethnic Communities Councils of Australia and National Health Partners. The goal was simple but revolutionary: to deliver mental health education by culturally and linguistically diverse people for culturally and linguistically diverse communities, using language, examples, and metaphors that actually resonate. And the result was striking. Over 90% of participants reported feeling more confident discussing mental health with their families and peers. And importantly, many of them didn't stop there. They went on to become educators themselves, delivering sessions in schools, churches, mosques, and cultural centers. One participant said, now I can speak about mental health with strength and without shame. Next slide, please. The Intercultural Young Advocacy Leadership Program, or AL, is a remarkable initiative out of Victoria, developed by the Ethnic Communities Council of Victoria. It's designed for young people aged 18 to 30 from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds who want to lead change, but haven't been given the platform or support to do so. Through IL, participants receive training in governance, leadership, storytelling, advocacy, and system influence. They don't just learn the theory, they learn how to sit on boards, speak at inquiries, and shape policy from a place of lived and cultural experience. As one IL graduate said, this program gave me the confidence to bring my story into rooms I never thought I would belong in. IL shows you that when you invest early and build people's capacity with care and cultural safety, you don't just empower individuals, you build a new generation of leaders. Next slide, please. And the Aspire Multicultural Leadership Program is a state-recognized initiative that strengthens leadership pathways for culturally and linguistically diverse people across Western Australia. Each year, 16 emerging leaders are selected through a competitive process. They receive fully funded scholarships to participate in workshops on culture capability, public leadership, and systems engagement. But the real impact happens beyond the workshops. Participants meet with Australians of the Year, attend civic ceremonies, and are supported to see themselves not only as storytellers, but as policy shapers, change makers, and bridge builders. Many go on to create community initiatives, advise on government strategy, or run for public office. And all carry with them a renewed belief that leadership can and should look like them. As one participant shared, this program gave me the tools and courage to lead with culture, not despite it. Next slide, please. Now, beyond funded programs and formal services, there is a quieter revolution happening. One you won't always find in reports or funding spreadsheets. In communities across Australia, culturally and linguistically diverse groups are creating their own peer support spaces. These are informal, grassroots works, often formed around language, faith, or shared migration stories. For example, you will find African men gathering in parks to talk about fatherhood and mental health. Arabic-speaking women meeting in homes to share struggles with stigma and resilience. Tamil collectives building intergenerational healing spaces. Vietnamese youth creating safe online forums to talk about pressure, identity, and hope. These groups aren't programs, they are lifelines. They offer what the system sometimes can't, which is deep cultural safety, trust, and mutual understanding. But here is the challenge. Most of these efforts run on love, not funding. They are invisible to many policymakers, and yet they're often where the most honest healing happens. One group member told me, we help each other because the system doesn't always know how to help us. Next slide, please. So we have heard the stories, the evidence, and example. So the next question is, what do we do with all of this? We already have the framework for mental health in multicultural Australia, but implementation is patchy and not mandatory. We need to move beyond frameworks as boxes to tick and use them as blueprints to rebuild. So here are 5 practical, powerful steps any organization, funder, or leader can take to help embed culturally and linguistically diverse lived experience into the heart of mental health transformation. First, fund culturally, linguistically diverse specific key roles. Don't just include us in advisory spaces. Create salaried support pathways for us to lead from within. Second, partner with multicultural organizations who already have trust within their communities. They are not just external stakeholders. They are co-creators of change. Third, embed cultural safety into your training and accreditation. Make it more than a workshop or a once-off or once-a-year thing. Make it a measurable standard. Fourth, set diversity targets for leadership roles so that our sector reflects the people it serves, not as a quota, but as an ethical imperative. And finally, co-design from the beginning. Invite culturally and linguistically diverse lived experience into the planning phase, not the postscript. Next slide, please. So final reflection, I want to leave you with something personal. When my mother died by suicide, after years of being unsupported, misunderstood, and excluded, I made a promise. I promised myself that no other culturally and linguistically diverse family should fall through the cracks in silence. And that promise is what brought me here, not just into this room, but to this work, to building spaces where culture, lived experience, and leadership are not competing truth. They are braided together as something powerful. Because we don't need to be spoken for. We are ready to lead. And when you make space for culture and linguistically diverse experience to lead, not just be heard, but be trusted, what you create isn't tokenism, it's transformation. Next slide, please. So thank you for sharing this space with me. If this presentation sparked a question or a connection or a sense of shared purpose, I would love to continue the conversation. My work through lived experience solutions and through community is dedicating to building a future where mental health systems are co-led by lived experience and where cultural wisdom isn't just welcomed, but woven into the way we design, respond, and care. Please feel free to reach out, whether you are a policymaker, peer, service leader, or someone with a story of your own. I believe we are stronger when we walk this path together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. That was incredibly insightful. And as someone who has a number of friends from the CALD community who struggle with their mental health and struggle finding somewhere to go, it's really quite refreshing to hear what you've spoken about today. We've had a few questions come through, but there was one comment in here that I thought you might enjoy, which is it was a fab presentation. It's just a funny question. Has anyone ever told you that you'd be an amazing audiobook voice artist?
No, well, thank you
If
very
you,
much for that.
if you're looking for a side hustle, maybe that's something you should consider.
Maybe, but in which language, Arabic or English? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
probably both. Probably both. But you spoke in English today, and it's made people laugh. So, um,
Thank you.
yeah, but yeah, it was. Yeah, you do have a really lovely voice. I will agree with that. Um, how can how can we be supportive as allies if we don't belong to this community?
So that's a very good question. And as allies, it's just bringing in the or wearing the hat of curiosity, to be curious about the person, to be curious about how they think about things, what lens do they apply to the situation that they experience. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. Everybody loves to accept, to to be asked and with curiosity about themselves. And one thing that I really noticed that it works, it's about talking about food. So I talk with people a lot about food, about Egyptian dishes, about Moroccan dishes, African dishes. We talk about food, and then starts the conversations about, so what do you think about this? Is that okay? Is that not okay? And just curiosity will get you really long way.
And like finding that common ground. Um, I love Egyptian food, so I
Yeah,
can attest to that. And I've seen that type of conversation used and try and find some common ground between different cultures. So it's really interesting that you said that. So
true.
that's great. Thank you. Where do you find the grassroots communities, the peer networks?
Yeah. So mainly because of many cultural and linguistic diverse groups are scattered across all Australia, and because of the importance of faith, I believe many of these groups you can find through networking with local churches, mosques, synagogues, temples, and across all Australia, you will find groups congregated in these areas. So that's a starting point. But
Mm,
then, when you talk to someone, you can speak to them again, being curious about, okay, what do you do else? What are other groups there? And they will share with you that maybe, for example, if you go and meet a group of Arabic-speaking women here in WA, they might introduce you to another group where they actually enjoy having a cup of coffee or tea and talk about things.
yeah.
And it's this matter of talking to people, and then they will introduce you to other people, and then they will introduce you to other people.
Yeah, amazing. And if there's one change that you would like to see happen right now, what would it be and how would you like to see it happen?
I would like to see in the mental health field more peer workers from culturally linguistic diverse groups. And I would like to see that happening by funding for these roles. People connect with people when they feel that they get them. So in my practice, I see many men from culture and linguistic diverse group. Some actually cry the first time we speak in Arabic because they feel finally someone understands them. It's really isolated. Feel that you are in an area or in a space or in a workplace that nobody speaks your language, nobody understands your culture. It's really isolating.
Yeah, I can
So for
imagine.
me, I would love to see that. Yeah.
Amazing. People have commented saying how much they love that you're investing this leadership. Suggestion regarding moving forward together, apart from sharing it here, what else are you doing to share the message?
Whenever I see an opportunity to talk about culture and linguistically diverse groups, I do, whether on LinkedIn, whether it's on Facebook, whether I'm having a chat with someone, I always talk about it. For me, the importance is more about the message than the forum. For me, forum is important, but the message is more important. Talk to people as much as you can. If you are passionate about the topic, you will talk about it 24/7 and you will not feel bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like all of us with lived experience. We'll
Yes.
talk about it
Yes.
24/7, whether
Exactly.
people are listening or not. So I
Exactly.
completely
Exactly.
relate. Look,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. We all really appreciate it. So we
Pleasure.
look forward to seeing where your organization goes. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Explore more Perspectives 2025 on Finding North Network's YouTube channel. Find out more by visiting findingnorthnetwork.com.au or email info@findingnorthnetwork.com.au.